can't see the picture too well. And this one here, you can definitely see the girl's feet on here.
Hey Chief, welcome to a Wednesday Convection Correction, the show that's just an excuse to talk about oven maintenance. Today we'll be looking at a 30-inch GE profile double wall oven with built-in microwave and crap. It's Thursday, isn't it? Hey, welcome to a Thursday Collection Connection, where we're playing that game. It's just an excuse to talk about records. I play the game with my brother, Plastic Eric, from the Plastic Soundwave Cult channel. And he plays every Monday. I play every Thursday. And here we go. In Eric's last video, he talked about the Salvation soundtrack from 1988. He mentioned that this movie didn't really go anywhere. It was not a good movie. And the most significant thing about it was the soundtrack. Interestingly, I looked up the movie, and apparently Viggo Mortensen was in it, well before he was Aragorn, famous for many things now, just a celebrity now, but an early role for him. Hadn't really heard, and Exene Cervenka from X was in the movie as well. But other than that, nobody I was really familiar with at all. So, small movie, and the interesting thing about it is it was not possible for me to listen to the soundtrack. It's not on Apple Music. It's not on Spotify. And while I'm sure that is a bigger problem, proliferates more than it necessarily might occur to you that it does, still, it's significant. Couldn't listen to it. I did play my special edition of New Order's Brotherhood album, which has Touched by the Hand of God on it, which is low-key actually one of my favorite New Order tracks. It seemed like a long-lost track because I was familiar with, I should say, Eric having the soundtrack on cassette way back when. And that's mostly what I remember is that one song. I don't remember the other New Order tracks or really any of the other songs that were on the album. And so with a impossible to listen to, an obscure soundtrack album from 1988, I decided that I would make its unavailability to stream anywhere that I could find anyway, my connection. So I found a little lost gem in my own collection, and that is from 1989. It is not on any of the streaming platforms that I could see. Some of it was on Bandcamp, but not the entire album, and not listed as being from the album. They were just sort of listed as individual tracks. But it is the 1989 album, Ed Haynes Sings Ed Haynes. There's a good chance you've never heard of Ed Haynes. The closest he got to a hit, and honestly where I first heard him, was the song I Want to Kill Everybody, treated as sort of a Dr. Demento type novelty hit. Certainly silly and broad, and the sound of it is, on the album, the sound of the track that got all the money, really. So he is funny. You can tell by the title, the silliness sort of baked in to his stuff. Taking the, whoever, Frank Sinatra sings Billie Holiday, or I know I have a Robin Hitchcock sings Bob Dylan album. Taking that format and just having it Ed Haynes sings Ed Haynes. The humor is not what I would call low-key. I would liken it to Leslie Nielsen's comedy in the Airplane movies or Police Squad. It's very dry and presented very straight, but also very silly. You could take a lot of these instrumental tracks from the album and put more serious lyrics over the top of them. And with the exception, maybe if I Want to Kill Everybody, and there's another song, the very topical Mikhail, about Mikhail Gorbachev at the time, and his confusion about kind of liking Gorbachev, even though he was the leader of Russia and he's not sure what to do about that. And I thought that maybe since you can't listen to it anywhere, really. Maybe I could get away with putting some clips on here. We'll see if it's recognized by the auto software, and we'll give it a go here. See if Ed Haynes or Apache Records, which is what this came out on way back in the day, has any issues with my playing a few clips.
How can anyone be feeling like I'm feeling when I'm feeling like this? I was at the Haight Street Fair watching Blue Movie play. I was 2 feet from the stage. Next to me is this guy with a big long brown beard and pieces of food or something, I don't know what, stuck in it. He's drinking a quart of Mickey's in the bottle in the bag. He's smiling, he's got no front teeth. Snot's running out of his nose, his pants are falling down. He's laughing, singing, playing air guitar. Go man, go. Pouring it real slow into a Dixie cup. Don't wanna hear the glug, glug, glug. It'll give you away each time, let me tell you. Well, I'm drunk, just trying to maintain. In front of my parents, just trying to maintain. Just maintain. My brother says you ain't maintaining. But Jack was way ahead of schedule, and so he pulled off at a pull-off. And they shared the bed behind the cab. They attempted intercourse, but Jack had left his genitals on his dresser at home, not thinking he'd need them. Damn, another opportunity missed. He thought, I've got to start thinking positive. And they awkwardly twisted to sleep.
So there you go. There's some Ed Haynes for you. And I like it a lot. This album was a white whale for me. Similar to Eric, I had it on cassette. And it has only ever received one release in 3 formats, all in 1989. And it came out on LP, on cassette, and surprisingly on CD. For such a small label in 89, it was not a slam dunk that it was going to come out on CD. And this copy that I'm holding in my hand is the only copy of the CD that I've ever seen. I looked on Discogs. 11 people claim to own a copy of this album on CD. Only about 60 people total claim to own the album, at least on Discogs in any format. Most of them are on vinyl. And yeah, pre-Discogs, and I don't remember the name of the service. It was in the 2000s, early to mid 2000s. There was a similar thing to the Discogs marketplace where you could search for titles and it would have a bunch of listings from around the world, I would say. I totally forget the name of it, but I had a couple of things that I just felt like I was never going to find in person that I would check on periodically. And I think the 2 that I bought through the service were Flesh for Lulu's Long Live the New Flesh, which ended up being remastered and reissued with some bonus tracks, and I got that, so it kind of replaced that anyway. But that and Ed Haynes, and every time I searched for Ed Haynes, it did say that it had a CD release, but nobody ever had a copy. And the one time that I ever saw it for sale, I snatched it up. And yeah, so for being, I'm not necessarily a huge, what do you call it? Not necessarily hipster, but oh, hey, you've never heard of this guy. Let me clue you in on it. Like they're underground, you wouldn't know them. I try not to be that guy. Most of my stuff is or has been at one time fairly mainstream. The alternative, the college version of mainstream. And so Ed Haynes, I enjoyed. Certainly a big They Might Be Giants fan, and the silliness, the sort of absurdism sometimes from Robin Hitchcock. I think that humor in music is underappreciated. And so he's kind of a storyteller. I've seen him likened to Stan Ridgway, which I can see. He's kind of got that voice too. But I listened to a couple later clips. He's mellowed out his voice a little bit, so he doesn't sound quite as cartoonish, sort of, as he does on this record. But several of the songs are just kind of stories, and the details are funny. But again, it's all delivered very straight. And others are topical. McFarland sort of is an environmental song, and Mikhail is about Mikhail Gorbachev, and Talking Cat Blues, which I imagine would get him canceled in a heartbeat today, is basically one setup, one long upsetting setup for a joke where he beats his cat. He talks about all the awful things he does to his cat through the song. So I know people don't find that funny necessarily anymore, but the entire setup is that he's gonna get that monkey off his back as his predilection for cat beating because he's about to have a baby. And the whole song is basically a setup for that last line, that the ways that past I am now rejecting, for my wife and I in 2 weeks are expecting. And that's the end of the song. But yeah, a lot of story songs. There's one very sort of atmospheric song called I-5, where he doesn't want to die on I-5. But he's out driving late at night and getting spooked out by it. But I enjoy it. You know, it's not a great record, but it is an important record to me because I worked so hard to secure a copy of it. And what I would recommend it. But of course, it's hard to experience it anywhere. So good luck with that. But hopefully my snippets, my song samples got through. And with that, I will throw Ed Haynes, sings Ed Haynes on Apache Records, 1989. Back to Eric. You can look for his response on Monday on his channel, Plastic Soundwave Cult. And with that, I think I said my piece. So I thank you for watching. Bye-bye.